south of the Canadian border, 12 miles west of the state line. Never seen so many trees in my life.
She's dead. Wrapped in plastic.
Written with the words, "To community of blood, fire, walk with me."
Power. I loved her. And she loved me.
I don't understand.
Now I want those straightened up by nightfall.
Who's the lady with the log?
We call it Long Lady.
But we also have another problem facing this young lady. Where's your sister's bicycle?
You know, dear, I have no idea what's going on here. I don't know.
Diane, I hold in my hand a box of chocolate bunnies. Welcome to the Rewatchers in the Lodge. We have watched the pilot episode of Twin Peaks, written by Mark Frost and David Lynch, directed by David Lynch, and man, what a ride it has been. I'm Tyler Harris here with
Marcus Marinos,
Mitchell Marshall,
Tyler McKinley,
and Riley Harris.
Thanks for coming here with us. I can't wait to talk about this.
I've never seen you this excited.
Oh my gosh, I'm filled with nervous I'm more nervous about this than I've been about anything in a very long time. And I got married once. This is like up there. Like it's in the same box, I feel like. But Mitchell, you took the notes on everything that happened, right?
I tried.
Yeah.
The style and the amount of things that happen, and I not knowing who is who or what's important, this could be a little crazy.
Right, yeah. I mean, if you haven't watched the episode, you're totally covered. Mitchell's got you covered.
Yeah,
so go ahead and tell them
this
all
is gonna be really accurate.
what happened.
Ooh. Here we go. Bird, smokestack, buzzsaw, sparks log, population 51,210, waterfall, woman with short hair, bright lipstick, old man leaves house for some fishing and finds a body. A detective or sheriff, ? Finds out. Loose lips Lucy takes the call. They take pics of the dead body and the photographer cop starts to cry, as per usual. Laura Palmer is the dead body's name. Laura's mom has Captain Crunch in the background, calls her friend who gives general... she calls her friend who's giving a general a massage in her kitchen. Is she with Bobby? No, he didn't show up for morning football practice. Then a stuck-up girl gets into a car. Two rich-looking crackers pitch some foreigners on a country club. And one of them is Laura's dad. Gasp. Mother breaks down, learning her baby is dead. Bobby takes Shelley home from the diner. Is he a T-bird? And then they make out. Wait, I thought he was Laura's boyfriend. Papa Palmer sees the body. Cool girl smokes after changing shoes, and really awkward high school hallway chatter ensues. People start to react to the deaths. Screamers, runners, crying, pencils break, and we have our first suspect, that slut Bobby. He denies it to the police, and the Principal Walching announces her death over the intercom, which seems really sensitive. Mama Palms tells the Poe that she last saw Lore at 9 p.m. Laura's room is searched. The sawmill or logging factory owner tells them to shut down ops because of the death. Another girl is missing. Wait, no, she's bloody walking along a train bridge. Whew. Very specific note-taking FBI agent rolls into town, and he does not know what a tree is. He visits the no longer missing girl who was raped and may have brain damage. A very odd doctor treated Laura without parental consent. Lights flicker. FBI man finds something under Laura Palmer's ring finger. He has seen more cases like this. Donna, Laura's bestie, is looking for a cool motorcycle guy, but her douche-rag boyfriend wants her to come support suspect Bobby at the police station. Laura hates asparagus. Her diary has a key. Bobby denies the murder and has to watch Laura dance with Donna while the FBI tries to coax out information. Cool girl tells foreign, later we find out Norwegian investors that Laura is dead. What the hell? They leave. Oh no. Agent Cooper, I finally figured out his name, interviews picnic lover Donna. Then they find bloody rags, a half-heart necklace, and a fire walk with me note under something. And then biker kid has the other half of the heart, which we find out immediately after. Coop and the sheriff find a safety deposit box with porn and $10,000 cash. Pulaski, or missing girl number 2, posed in flesh. And there's a pic of Bobby's new hoe's dad's truck. I am so confused. Crazy eye patch woman's husband who runs the gas station is going to see his side piece. It's the waitress. The older one. At town meeting, Cooper tells the people there's a killer connection between Laura and a year-old case in another town. Donna sneaks out through her bizarre sister's window, but Mike has come a-looking. Now Papa tells the police she's missing. Gas station guy and diner woman meet at a synth biker venue. That's where Mike finds Donna, and a fight with teen bikers breaks out. Biker James spills the beans on Laura's double life and the final night of her life. Then they make out, even though the girls were best friends. Then they regret it. Then they don't regret it. No, yes, please stop, please go. Okay. Cooper and the sheriff arrest James when they start tailing the motorcycle at the end. Donna's dad has a moral moment about how she shouldn't have taken and lost her sister's bike and didn't put air in the back tire. Our investigators finally get their donuts. Jocks bark at Bobby. What the hell? Sheriff is shagging the lady who owns the logging mill. And finally, Laura's mom screams and a glove uncovers the buried necklace.
That was it. That was.
Wow. I'm gonna have to practice keeping that pace. Oh man,
very well done.
work.
Yeah,
Good work. Because I mean, it made no sense what you just said, but like, I couldn't have made any more sense out of it. I feel like you got everything.
As long
pretty
as
good.
you could identify some of the things I said, I'm pretty happy.
No, absolutely. It was.
It touched
great
me
job.
emotionally. Whatever it was.
I always just try and touch people, so mission
I
accomplished.
was touched physically during this, what it was.
Look, we do an audio medium for a reason. Don't spoil.
Yeah, so those are all the things that happened. That's it. It's not a lot for a pilot, It's fine.
I will say that was the most absurd pilot I've ever seen of anything. I think I can't recall like the first episode of something I've ever watched where, like, I feel like I need to take a shower
because it was gross,
and
or
a lot
because you feel tired, or what?
Not in the usual way when people say that. Just in like a. Man, I feel like there's so much on me right now, and in me, I just need a shower, chug some mouthwash, and I don't know, man.
Twin Peaks baptism will do that to you. Like, you are different. You are changed. You don't know in all the ways yet, but you are a different.
It's the same
human.
feeling you get when you go to like someone else's church.
It's exactly like
a lot of organ.
Welcome.
Just a lot of organ in the background.
Just constant. There is a very old organ player who knows 3 songs, and you are gonna hear all of them. Well, yeah, okay. So let's just start with kind of like initial impressions. I want to hear like from each of you, the thing that stood out to you the most, that was maybe your most like what the fuck moment or whatever. Kind of in watching Twin Peaks. So. Riley, do you want to start us off?
Yeah. Apparently everyone in the town is having affairs with someone else in the town, and every person is. So it's, that's a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And it's
going to be hard to keep all that straight.
Yeah. And it's seriously, it really is ridiculous in this show. I think we talked about it a little bit before, is like every scene you're learning new relationships between characters that you haven't seen on screen together. There's a lot of people calling each other and you're like, oh, this is a way deep connection between these 2 random people. Like it's really great. What about you, Tyler? Anything?
In the porno mag, there's a picture of that dude with his truck. Why? Why?
So sometimes you want to have what we call in the biz a dope ass transition.
Like this man just posing in front of his truck, in front of his white trash home.
You couldn't see it, but he was giving a thumbs up. It was a picture review. They were trying something new in the magazine. Flesh World subscribers had really dropped off. They were trying to do everything they could.
Flesh World.
Flesh World.
That's not a real thing, is it?
I don't think so.
Okay, because I'm not a fan.
Does Flesh World make a return in any further episodes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so anytime we say the word flesh, we all have to, do something weird. Just
uncomfortably squirm.
I'm gonna lick my ring finger.
I'm gonna lick your ring finger too.
Okay. What about you, Mitchell?
He doesn't have cocaine, just in case you guys wondering. So much happens. And there's so many unnecessary extra lines or moments, and some people seem to be really putting on a bit, and other people are like taking it seriously. Probably the biggest one was when they said we're gonna put on a curfew. It's night. And then they show a streetlight swinging in the night very clearly. And it goes through the full cycle of a streetlight.
Yes. Yep.
And I would say I would give it a 6 out of 10 on the quality of the length of the yellow light. That's all I could think about. I was like, how far back could I have made it?
I don't know if the color of my TV was off, but that green light was blue.
No, there's weird color stuff for sure. Like it's yeah, and I honestly there's some of that I'm not sure how much of that just comes with the territory of like this was made in 1990.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like for a standard def television, in 4:3, which is what we're watching it in also. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff that way. But yeah, Marcus, any impressions?
I'm just ready to like embrace the absurdity of like what this is.
Yeah.
Like I still can't like place my finger on it.
Yeah.
But I'm like ready to like just get in and just like see what is going to happen, because they're like what the thing that like weirds me out the most is kind of like what Mitchell mentioned, is just like there's like a lot of like extra lines and like scenes where you're like, am I supposed to remember that? It's like, yeah, sorry, these lights are really flickering and stuff. And it's like,
So good, yeah.
or it's like, oh yeah, this just fell off the wall. It's like, is that important?
Right, yeah. Well, and that's yeah, I mean, let's talk about some more stuff like that, because there's so many. It's funny because this, I feel like plot wise is so straightforward, especially in 2019. Like we've had almost 40 years of police procedurals, Law and Order, other kind of long form stuff where they are solving a case over multiple episodes or a season. But that was like, this is like a brand new thing. You know what I mean? They were like in these uncharted waters. And I think it's interesting the differences between kind of what we see now and what they were doing back then, because I think one of the great things that this pilot does, one of the things I love about this pilot, is a piece of information will be revealed to the audience, and it will still be 5 to 10 minutes before the people that we think should know that information actually get that information.
That's true.
You know, like Laura Palmer is dead, and then the next we see her mom in her kitchen, and there is this odd dread that comes with seeing her not knowing what we know, and it feels gross at first, like it's one of those things that like it feels like such a distinct choice, and they do that multiple times. You know, we know who has the locket. Immediately after, we're like, oh man, I wonder who has that locket, and they're like, cut.
Yeah.
Oh,
here it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really, I think in a lot of ways, like it sets up the idea that like, yeah, there's this huge mystery, there's all this stuff, but it also almost goes out of its way to say, but that's not necessarily the most important thing. Like, here's the information. Let's see this girl be an agent of chaos at her dad's hotel. You know, like just bizarre stuff like that.
Did we ever get that girl's name, by the way?
Her name is Audrey. Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, I
Yeah.
remember it. Yeah, she said when she poked open the coffee, she's like, Audrey.
Yeah. Oh, Audrey. Oh.
All right. I got a bold prediction concerning Audrey here.
Okay. Pew, 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 prediction.
Glad it's back.
I'm gonna get that added in. I'll just have it like.
Yeah, I'll just add that to the soundboard.
Audrey's not real.
Oh, boy.
Audrey is either not real or she's supernatural in some way. And
Well, that coffee she spilled everywhere was certainly real.
she is like the equivalent of Loki, the trickster god. And I know the show gets weirder and goes in some
Right.
like even weirder places than this episode did. So I'm pretty confident that she's a time traveler because she's from the 50s with her shoes and skirt. And yeah, she's like a demon or something.
Okay, you heard it here first.
Yeah. What was my other prediction? I had a big one. I'll get to it before the end.
Yeah.
I'll remember
So that's, but I think that's another interesting thing is like, there's this 50s aesthetic to like so
I
much of
think-
what's going on in this town.
I think in the 90s, like people had a weird obsession with the 50s.
Well, yeah,
That was
yeah.
kind of like a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the 90s gave us like the ska revival, which was born out of like people getting into big band music again for some reason. Yeah. And like, But yeah, it is like David Lynch is also kind of obsessed with the 50s.
I remember, like, I asked you at the beginning, I was like, when is this supposed to take place? Because
Right.
it feels somewhat ambiguous at first, at least.
Yeah. Well, and it totally is. Like, it's one of those things they definitely don't state, you know, when it is or what it is.
There's not a title card that comes up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so that is like a really interesting thing. And like, also, I think one of the cool things about this pilot too is I think I heard you say this, Mitchell, when we were watching it, and you're introduced to Shelley Johnson, who's the young waitress at the diner, and then she leaves with Bobby, and then they're like drinking in the car, and she's like being all sexy, and I just heard you say, "I thought she was a nice girl," or something like that. Yeah, which I think is like a recurring theme in this episode. Like, it is this small town. Everyone knows each other. It's very simple, and everyone's sleeping with each other, and everyone has a secret, and everyone like. I guess watching this, do you guys have any thoughts, like just instinctually, about who did kill Laura Palmer or who could have killed Laura Palmer?
Out of like the characters who have like already been revealed to us.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, whoever Audrey's working for, her demon overlord, I think, did it. Oh, I remember. I think all my predictions just revolve around people not existing. The Dale Cooper, when he's talking on his thing, it's to Diane, right?
Right.
Diane's not a real person.
Okay.
Diane is like his mental consciousness or something stupid like that.
I could see that something like that happening.
It's so good.
Because like Dale himself is like so different than I thought he was going to be. Because like I'm drawing him currently for our cover.
Oh right, yeah.
And I always just imagine him as like the very stereotypical like detective in these type of stories where they go to like the mountain town, and then the weird things start happening to them. Like, no, this can't be real. Like, but he seems to be the one that's like, he might be a weird supernatural person. Right. Like, he seems so out of place, and honestly, he's my favorite parts of this pilot. The scenes he is in are the most engrossing to me and enjoyable and grip me the most in like this weird comedy but still dark way. I don't know. He's great and just so out there. Yeah.
I love, because he is a character. Like, this show switches from like comedy to like this very heavy-handed moments, like almost immediately, you know what I mean? And like Dale Cooper will do that in a scene, you know, and he's like, he has the thing about you know, he's talking to, when he first meets Sheriff Truman, he's like, what are these trees you got here? He just has like this, like, it's like he's playing a 7-year-old all of a sudden. Like, it feels like that's the direction. And in that same breath, he's like, can I get a coroner's report for that dead girl? Like, and it's just this weird melding of those things in a way that, like, I think throws you off balance for so much of this pilot, for sure. But yeah, I guess, what are some other characters that stood out to you, kind of plot-wise? I mean, we kind of got everything. I mean, Laura Palmer's dead, and then basically it's just the tour of the entire town. I mean, we meet so many characters in this over this hour and a half.
Yeah, there's some confusing dynamics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. What's confusing to you guys still at this point? I guess
the family, the logging family, but it's run by the Asian woman who apparently had it passed down. And then there was the guy who worked at the gas station that might be more than a gas station because it also does repairs. And I was very confused by that. He ended up with the waitress. And then the other girl who was a waitress was with Bobby, who was cheating on Laura, but who's also cheating on Bobby with James. I would say I am most intrigued by Donna right now.
Okay. Yeah.
Not as a suspect, because our only official suspect is Bobby, but the FBI agent has already cleared him, which makes me think it might be Bobby. But Donna, to me, is the most intriguing storyline. Obviously, James, because he was with her that night. Like, we're going to learn more about that, I assume. Or, man, I don't know. But Donna, so far, to me, is the most intriguing one. But, like, all those dynamics, like, I just went through 9 degrees of separation to get to her. And I went from one side of town to the other. It was nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that's telling, too. I think Donna, like, she's kind of the most... maybe the least quirky character that we've seen in this episode. I mean, the Palmers well, Leland Palmer maybe is we don't really see a lot of him. He seems pretty, normal. Sarah Palmer is a wreck. Just a wreck.
Never had I had less sympathy for someone mourning. Like,
yeah, man. I mentioned like filming that must have been.
Yeah,
I'm sure there were a lot of takes of her just screaming.
Yeah,
and,
well, and I mentioned there are interviews with her talking about this. This is probably like the role she's best known for, but she's a very like prolific stage actor, like all this, and she talks about working with David Lynch, and she's like, he pushes you past the point where you think you should stop. And specifically, I always think of that scene when I think of that, because it feels very much like it's just someone being like, yep, more of that. Just keep going until I tell you to stop.
Especially because like the cuts are very long. Like the scenes are very long. You're like, all right, like I get it. Like this lady she's sad. Like her daughter just died, and yeah, I could use a bit less moaning and like crying. Like we get the idea,
right?
Yeah. I think that was the hardest part for me starting. It was like I didn't love sitting through the mourning of like everyone mourning for so long. But then once Dale Cooper showed up, I was like, okay, I'm on board. Like and weird stuff, like the letter underneath the fingernail was pulled out, and like stuff like that, and just like with his weird quirkiness, kind of brought me back into it. And then things started moving at a surprisingly fast pace. New information was revealed very quickly, almost like every scene.
They found the scene of the crime like right away.
Yeah, exactly. And I wasn't expecting. Like I've been watching the 3rd season of True Detective recently, and like going from that where like. It's almost like new information is only revealed like twice an episode,
right? On
stuff like that, and then the rest of it's just a slow burn. Whereas this was just like, oh, we've got this. Oh, we got this. We know who has this. We're gonna go try and get him. We found him apparently, and like all that stuff happens. And so I'm interested to see where this goes after already covering all this information.
Yeah,
I love it. I love how old network dramas. I wouldn't say things hit the fan super often because that actually came in a later cycle. But things pay off very quickly. They will fit more plot into a smaller section of TV than you think, especially considering most network dramas have 22 episodes a season. It's kind of crazy the amount of story that they're willing to pack into this. And so this almost had they could have, like you said, the European version of this pilot actually is a movie that has an answer. I could have seen them getting there in 10 more minutes, like an episode of Law & Order, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of fun to have those things come so quickly. And I'm sure there are things we will anticipate over several hours, but there were also a lot of things that they just answered. But then they opened new doors as a standard. There are a couple confusing things. I didn't understand how they found the place where they found the blood and the pile of dirt with the necklace. And then I didn't know how they found the safety deposit box. So there are some things where I was just like, okay, we're moving on.
Yeah. Well, because there's so much information. Because I honestly am trying to remember how they find the scene. I think it has something to do with Ronette, with where she came from, or because it isn't a train car. She comes walking down the tracks, and that scene, the scene of the crime, is inside of a train.
So they probably just followed the tracks.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And
I was lost too on that one.
So it really is because like that whiplash just happens naturally because of like where we're going, all the information that's happening. But yeah, and the safety deposit box is also, that's the key they find in the diary. Right. So they just know like,
oh, you can court.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, I will say just another note on the diary. We were watching this with Katie, Tyler's wife, and when they first saw the diary, and he was like, "Is there a key for this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know." And the guy was like, "Just put it in the box." She's like, "Can't you just break it open?" And like, I was like, I can't wait till they just break it open. but yeah, Riley, what about you? Is there anything was there anything that's super confusing at this point?
Not yet. I feel like I kind of caught on to a few of the things. I'm really interested to kind of dive more into what Laura Palmer was like up to and kind of find out more about that, and then find out what like James had to do with it, because he was kind of a part of it because he knows stuff.
Yeah.
And like if Donna had any secrets that she's not letting on to, I guess.
Right.
I'm interested for that stuff.
Yeah, I actually do want to ask that question too. Laura Palmer exists in this. We enter this world. We enter a world where Laura Palmer does not exist anymore. Like she is dead. And the only time we actually see it, we just see these pictures everywhere. She's a homecoming queen, all this stuff. Like we see that, and we see a video of her that was taken on a camera that was in her room, right? What are your guys' impressions of who Laura Palmer is? Like, do you feel like she's a real person? Like, or because I feel like your relationship at this point is just based off of 20 other people who had relationships with Laura Palmer, and so I'm just wondering what you guys think of Laura Palmer, or if you think of her as an actual character. I don't know, anything like that.
That's actually a really cool way to look at it, is that through all these little tidbits of the research and the different people's impressions of her death, we almost build a character in our mind. Like, her mother made it seem like she was a little bit of the all-American girl. She had a boyfriend who played football. She was usually on time studying. She had this great friend, Donna. We find out she must have had a really darker double life from James, but up until then, even her interactions with the other characters, it seemed like, okay, yeah, she might have had a boyfriend and been cheating on him. Like, nothing seems super out of character, but definitely she got more and more complex as we went down. I do think of that character intrigues me, but at the same time, she is still only a plot device.
Right. For sure. At this point, absolutely. I think one of the scenes that, like, I think when I first watched this, I was like, oh, she was into some shit, is the diary scene with Cooper when he's like, I want this tested for cocaine, and Truman's like, come on. And just that line of Cooper being like, have you ever been surprised before, Sheriff Truman? It's just such a great moment.
Is it a cynic that I'm like, yeah, everyone's on cocaine?
That would explain a lot of things happening in the town of Twin Peaks. Bobby Briggs is a coke fiend if I've ever seen one. Just his hood surfing outside of the Hayward's house is
just them
truly one of the greats.
Fighting a whole bar. They took out
for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
I don't care who it's hard for me to believe that these two punks, just high school kids, walk into a biker bar and take out like 19 of them before they finally get taken down.
I will say, everyone, if you live in Twin Peaks, you're either between the ages of 17 and 20 or like 48 and 51. Like, there's not a whole lot of middle ground in Twin Peaks.
But you're always sleeping with someone who's not your wife.
Yes, exactly. And you're married to someone you hate.
So wait, is that... I don't know if this ruins anything. Is the eye patch lady married to that guy?
I was just going to ask about
So Ed and the eye patch lady are married.
Does she come back?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
good. Oh, boy.
Does she come back where she's actually
my favorite
on
character
set
right
with anyone? Because
yes.
that shot of cutting to a suburban home across the street from a middle of nowhere gas station threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
I want her to only be in that house, though, just like moving the curtains all the time.
It's not far from it. I'll say when she does leave that house, some bullshit happens. But it is worth noting too. So this pilot was filmed a year separate from the next 7 episodes we're gonna watch. So
really?
They shot this pilot and it was like held on for a long time before it was aired, and then it was aired, and then they were picked up, and then it kind of went from there. But like, it is there are some locations that are different. There are some things about this pilot, like I'm pretty sure the diner is a different location. The Palmer's house changes a little bit, so there's a bunch of little things that, like, when we watch the next couple episodes, you will probably notice some differences as far as locations and stuff, just because of how long they went between shooting these.
Marcus, I know we've talked before about cinematography. How did you feel on like a production value of this?
It definitely has like that like soap opera feel at times, but I kind of like it. It like adds to like kind of the like odd, absurd feel of the show, where it's like, and then it has to deal with some of the writing. But I feel like it's like well shot for like what it is and for its time. Like, it's like one of the first ever TV shows like this in the 90s. And I don't know, a lot of the weird things I thought about it were like editing choices, where like they would hold on to a shot for a long time, and I'm like, is it loading? Is the DVD, like, is there a scratch on the DVD? or like, or yeah, just kind of random things like that.
A lot of times those weren't like the most interesting shots either.
No, yeah,
Right.
like they're like a close up of a person, and they're like not doing much, or yeah, just odd things like that. So, but it definitely, like, those choices are of course very purposeful, and so they're doing something. It's creating a feeling, or like
sometimes it's just like did that mean something? Well, I think there's some really creative and interesting shots, and then there's things that's like it felt like okay, we just need to get this done.
Yeah, I agree. I was noticing like some of the shots I'm like, this is a really cool shot. And the next shot would be like just garbage. It was like the most ugly thing I've ever seen in my life. And even like the resolution quality almost, or like, I don't know if it's the lighting or what it was. I mean, you can even see it in like some places where like, I don't know, even that shot of, I mean, that's not the best example, but just the difference, I guess, the contrast of Bobby. Is it Bobby the biker dude?
James.
What the fuck?
Bobby is Bobby the dog.
Yeah, okay,
Bobby
gotcha.
the barker.
Yeah.
James and I can't keep names straight. The girl,
Donna.
are talking towards the end there. And then it cuts down to him putting the locket down. And it's like the most artificial dirt. And the light is like way different than the previous shot.
That whole scene, back forth, how heavily they're lit, the ground's lit, when they grow away, where light might be coming from, what's going on with the bike. That I don't pretend to be an expert with those things. I've tried to light many sets, and it's hard.
Yeah.
And man, that one for sure was like, what, this makes no sense. But that doesn't bother me. I think the story is more important at that point, so I can let that go. But I definitely noticed it.
Yeah, it's hard to say, like, and this is going to be like a theme for me, I think, and hard for me to handle throughout the whole series of, I know David Lynch is just super weird and makes really weird choices on purpose. And I feel like it's almost beyond critique for me. Like, I can say, like, yeah, some of his shots are garbage, but were they intentionally garbage? I don't know.
Right.
Do they make sense in his acid-rattled brain? I don't know. But, like, yeah, so it's, like, really hard for me, like, so I guess I'm going to try and be like, yeah, I'll be critical of things like that, but at the same time, I'm, like, take it with a grain of salt, like...
Right.
I get that 100%. I feel the same way about kind of everything in general, where it's like, this writing is weird, but, like, who am I to critique, like, this, like, that I've never seen and that is so, like, widely loved, right?
So. Well, and I will say, like, that's not... I love this show. There is some stuff that it really is, like, I have grown to love it. Because there are parts of this show that I think no other show has done as well. Like, the character of Dale Cooper, like, from his introduction to... We're going to see some stuff in the next couple episodes that it just... He is one of my favorite characters in fiction. And because of that, there's so much about this show that I'm willing to look past. There are also things, though, that, like, are part of the things that you guys have mentioned that we're going to see a lot of as far as, like, specific shots. And there are certain things that are set up as this, like, visual language for this show. And it's never, like, overtly stated what that language is, but you can, I don't know, it's so I'll be interested to see how you guys feel about some of those shots and things later, because you are going to become very familiar with them, you know. And so yeah, that is really interesting.
I mean, I'm gonna get a stoplight every episode.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if that's, like,
going to see a stoplight.
I wonder if that's important.
Yeah, so the stoplight, yeah. You'll know some other things. We'll kind of bring them up as you guys know some. But
slow pans and dollies are his favorite.
I will say, like, there are things about this show too. This is there are scenes in this that are so cinematically shot. Particularly, like, I think in the hospital with when Cooper and Truman are going to see Ronette Pulaski, and there's the shot behind the desk. And it's just a tracking shot as they go around the desk and through the door, and the camera pulls back. Like, there's stuff that was happening, like, cinematography wise here, that I don't think was done on TV really at all before. Like, it was stuff that was reserved for movies, which is where David Lynch had come from. You know what I mean? Like,
there's that nice moving shot too of when they're in Donna's house and her parents are talking.
Yeah.
And then it like comes up the stairs and it's
Yeah.
framed really nicely, and then goes up the stairs to her. It's a nice moving shot.
Yeah.
That's another one of those ones. Like, it's a really nice shot, and then next scene there's gonna be something horrible.
Yeah.
that
You
looks
just
ugly.
set up a camera in the corner of this girl's
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but yeah, and then also that shot of the Palmer stairs and that fan. Like, I mean, I won't spoil anything. I have seen a scene that you showed me.
Yeah.
That might relate to that a little bit. That makes that a little more haunting. But that shot is eerie in itself. I feel like even if I hadn't seen that, because
Well, it's like this it's this low angled, like, I don't know that there's another shot in this pilot that's framed that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of another time where the camera's that low, and like, yeah, it's definitely
That is a
distinct.
shot that like stood out to me. It is like it gives you like an eerie vibe.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the close up of the ceiling fan for
Yeah.
some reason.
Right? Yeah. The lights of the ceiling,
subliminal
like
Yeah.
you see the blades spinning almost
Uh-huh.
out of frame. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's what an odd choice.
Not framed well.
it's bizarre. Yeah, that's another one. It's like it goes from like an interesting, not like amazing shot, but interesting one to just close up.
Yeah.
Not.
But like I'll remember that. It was very impactful.
Right? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, are there any other characters in like specifically that you guys want to talk about? I feel like it's so overwhelming going into this pilot and just like meeting everyone.
Oh, new prediction.
Prediction.
You're not real.
The owner of the mill who shut it down, who apparently everyone at a mill is on call for just it shutting down at any moment. It's like they're doing it, pull the plug. Like, and
Yeah.
Anyway,
I will say before that, she tells Pete, push the plug.
That's
Pete.
okay. That's what I thought she said,
Yeah.
and I was like, I must have just heard wrong. But I was like, push the plug.
And honestly, I cannot tell you if that was written in the script to be like English is her second language, like this is, or if it was just a flubbed line. It's like, this is the take we have. You know what I mean? Like, I have no idea. It drives me nuts every time. Every time I convince myself that when Pete goes over to the thing, he's going to be like, push the plug. Like, he's gonna just jump on this weird bandwagon with Josie Packard. But what a bizarre thing.
okay. So Josie's her name, right?
Josie,
Okay.
yes.
She does seem
Josie
more, yeah.
knows more about this.
Okay,
That very first shot of her is like her looking over her shoulder, like she knows there's a body on the beach already.
Interesting. Yeah.
And
That's true. That's the first shot. It's
I
her.
feel like she's gonna play a big part and a little bit of a darker part to this story.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, she's not real.
Who is real in this situation?
Apparently, none of the women. 'Cause I've named 3 of them. Just realized that that was not on purpose. I got to find some men to say aren't real now.
I have a prediction.
Yeah.
I don't think David Lynch himself is real. He is not real.
Oh, gosh, I listen to interviews and I'm like, you're an ethereal being.
He's like an alien with autism. Like,
Insane. Gosh, he's honestly, it's listening to him talk. Here's the thing. I've read a lot of books lately, also about David Lynch, kind of in preparation for this, and I will say, everyone is just like, David Lynch is like literally the nicest person. They're like, they say that about everyone, but they're like, David Lynch is literally the nicest person in the world. And then you watch the shit he makes and you're like, oh fuck. Like,
I've only seen like clips of him ever being angry about something, so it's like hard to believe that.
I will say there's a great behind the scenes shot from the most recent season of Twin Peaks where someone's like, yeah, but I just don't know if that shot's going to be too long. And he's sitting behind the monitor, he takes his headphones off and he's like, I want to talk about this. He's like, I want to talk about this because it's driving me nuts. He's like, who gives a fucking shit how long a shot is? And it's just become this meme of like, just people will post who gives a fucking shit how long a shot is, just everywhere, and it is, yeah, it's great. But yeah, any other predictions or thoughts about the pilot of Twin Peaks?
I think that there might be aliens involved.
Hey,
Okay,
I don't know. I got that vibe
I like
when they
it.
pulled that thing out of her fingernail, and he was like, "Oh, they left us this." I was like,
This is the
crop
only means of
circles.
communication we feel safe discussing with these human
Put
beings.
them in fingernails. Yeah.
I mean,
That'd be pretty cool.
I will say, all of it. If you want a message that humans will not find, definitely put it under your fingernails.
Yeah.
Because as we watched that scene, as those tweezers went further and further under
Oh.
that fingernail, I could feel everyone.
Oh my gosh! I was like,
shrinking
he's
and
gonna pop the
shrinking.
fingernail off, and I'm gonna leave.
Oh my gosh.
She's not dead already. They now know she is.
I don't know if it's aliens, but I think there's like definitely something like supernatural coming
Okay.
in
Yeah.
the future.
Okay.
Subtly supernatural. I don't know. I honestly have no freaking idea.
So
but
good.
I'm very intrigued. I will say, like, watching it, it definitely has this weird soapy campness to it. But, like, enough things happen, and maybe it's because I'm watching with you guys, but I was, like, enjoying all the bizarre stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I am still trying to follow it like a traditional plot.
Yeah.
And as weird, you just told me how just weird it is. I'm like, okay, I shouldn't, don't just let it happen. But I'm very intrigued.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I think it does a great job of that. And like I said, I mean, we just watched Game of Thrones, which I think is known almost in a mimetic sense of like, this show has a lot of characters. It's like hard to keep straight.
Yeah.
And so going from that directly into this, I'm like, this is manageable. There's only like 20 new people that people need to know in their relationships with each other. It's fine.
Yeah,
It's totally
I'm
fine.
pretty screwed already. Like, I don't know anyone's. The names we've already said, just barely,
Yeah.
I'm gone. I
Yeah.
have to
Well,
go
and
back and write it
I
down.
will say, I think it does a good job kind of after this of you see people in almost every episode. You know what I mean? You kind of get these updates kind of going forward. And the other thing, I read this recently, and I honestly, I haven't watched with this in mind enough to say that it's 100% true, but it might be a fun thing to look for. Is someone was basically saying that every episode of Twin Peaks is one day. And so, which does hold.
I was noticing
true
that
for
at the end of this
right?
one so far, yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I think for the next couple it does also, but I'm not sure beyond that. But it could be an interesting thing to kind of watch for and see.
It took me like 2.5 watches of Game of Thrones to get those characters straight, and I read the
For sure.
books.
Oh,
now
yeah.
I know them all like the back of my hand. I'm sure you do for this. Like,
Yeah.
each of those means so much to you. But yeah, right now,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's the pilot of Twin Peaks. You've made it through the first hour and a half of, in my opinion, the greatest media experience you will have. Just you've peaked.
Hey.
I stole that from you, but
a
it's,
double peak. So to clarify, plot wise, we leave off with them. Someone found this necklace that they hid
Right.
in a random spot under a rock.
and Sarah
and-
Palmer screamed
and
when
she-
it was found.
And she,
Yeah.
so she's seeing that.
She's
She's having like an hallucination or a vision of that, right?
It's a good question.
That's what
And
I.
this is a
Like,
different
not to ask
necklace than
questions,
the
it's
heart necklaces, right?
No, that,
No, that
it
was
was
the
the
heart
one that was
necklace.
buried. So that the shot at the end of that, because James and Donna bury the other half of the heart necklace.
Okay.
And what we see at the end is
The
a
gloved,
gloved hand
yeah.
finding that.
Oh,
And then she's,
okay.
like,
the other half of
screaming.
that necklace.
I'm gonna be honest. I was a little in and out at the
Yeah, no,
like the
that's-
last
that's
5
fine.
minutes. So I'm glad I'm happy for the recap at
Yeah.
the beginning of it.
So James was with her the night before. Donna
Yeah.
knows something. Apparently,
Bobby
This
was with her at
Polanski
some
chick-
point the night before. Yeah, the
Oh,
Pulaski
I do have a
girl.
prediction. I think the Polanski thing is separate.
Okay.
I do not think it's directly correlated.
The girl on the tracks.
Oh, gotcha.
The girl who walks across the track, that they were like, "Oh,
Really?
another girl's missing," and then she shows right up, and she apparently went through something terrible and might have some brain issues and stuff. But,
Yeah. All right.
Interesting.
Interesting prediction.
Because, yeah, the movie. I don't know, because like the movie's called Fire Walk with Me, right?
it is.
Yeah, I
yes.
did notice that.
So-
Tyler has told me that, so I knew that was important.
So yeah, if it is separate, it still has to be like a huge part of the plot.
Right. Oh, I'm not
like-
saying they're complete. Like,
Oh no.
I'm just saying they may not. I don't think that maybe her disappearance has to do with Laura's disappearance.
It's not like directly correlated.
Yeah, I was just trying to work it out in my head. Like,
Yeah, broadly,
oh,
for
okay,
sure.
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Well, I think that we'll go ahead and end. We do. We're going to start ending with recommendations again, which is kind of what we've done a while ago. And
Yeah, we did it on
Sorry I'm Late.
On Sorry I'm Late, our first podcast.
just to kind of talk about other media we're consuming or anything. So if you guys want to think of recommendations or something you're watching, Mitchell, do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
I want you to start.
Okay, I'll start. recently watched, and I think I've talked to most of you about this at some point. There's a show on Netflix now called Dead to Me with Christina
my gosh.
Applegate. Have you watched it?
I literally watched the whole season yesterday.
That is the type of show this is. It is trash TV. Like
it is. I don't know. I watched it.
Yeah.
Like Matthew just put it on, and I'm like, all right, like here we go, and we just kept watching, and we finished it.
Yeah, it goes down so easy that I didn't even care if it was bad for me. Like it's so good, and it really is. It's trashy. It's a show that when I hear the plot, I'm like, I don't think I'm into it. But Christina Applegate is a genius, and Linda Cardellini is amazing.
They're great.
And every single episode, within the last 3 minutes, there is a big, huge reveal you definitely did not see coming that changes everything, and you immediately go on to the next episode. Because what else are you gonna do? Like
It's like when a new member comes on Terrace House. You got to watch the beginning.
Exactly,
Of the next
it is
episode.
exactly that. And so it's like trash TV in the best way possible. It's not even that in that show they're self-aware and are like, hey, look at what we're doing. We're doing what these other shows are doing. It's just that they do it. They commit to it in a way that makes it so watchable, and the performances are great. I've told several people this. There are some people that just swear better than others. Like I am an amateur when it comes to cursing. Christina Applegate is a maestro. Like just hearing those words flow from her lips is like manna from heaven. Like it is beautiful. She makes it an art form. So yeah, Dead to Me on Netflix. I will recommend it. I will say, don't start it unless you've got like the next 5.5 hours free that you can watch.
Because you're just going to want to keep watching it.
Yeah.
10 episodes, half-hour episodes. So yeah, but yeah, great show. I loved it. I'm probably not going to watch it again, but when season 2 drops, I'm on that. I'm on that. So, yeah, Mitchell.
Yeah,
do you have
I'm ready.
something?
Sorry, when you say good swears, I just started thinking there's a bunch of Game of Thrones people who do it well.
Yeah,
but people
that's
who
true.
do it bad. Have any of you guys watched Dexter?
No,
Yeah.
I haven't.
I've
The
seen it in
sister,
the first season.
worst swear of all time.
Yeah, she's pretty bad.
Okay, here's my recommendation. This is a little unique. Watch something, but spoil it for yourself first. But don't do it with something you're really excited about. Like for me, I've always wanted to watch like The Sopranos and The Wire. I don't want to spoil those things.
Yeah.
I want to find a murder mystery show that's fairly popular and do it because every time I watch something and I hit the end and I get the big reveal, I'm like, oh, I want to go back and watch for all the little hints and clues. I want to watch that player. In fact, even with a reality show like Survivor, I kind of want to see who wins and then go back and really see all the dynamics between them and each jury member who voted for them and stuff. And I don't have time. I'm not going to rewatch something.
Right.
So I'm watching this season of The Bachelorette knowing who wins because I'm excited to
Nice.
see. And this is always, you can always find out who wins The Bachelor.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure Riley knows who's gonna win The Bachelor before The Bachelor's announced.
Do you really?
Like,
Oh,
Do you
I
spoil it
read
every season?
spoilers every season.
And you
I'm not
watch it?
watching this season
See-
because I hated last season.
Oh, I was not excited about this Bachelorette, and I am very pleasantly surprised. But I like part of the intrigue for me, especially when they get to the final four, and you're like, there's probably some genuine feelings for a couple of these. It's really wondering who they're going to pick. So I decided to spoil it for myself. But my buddy did it with a show called The Killing. And so I don't want to do it for Laura Palmer, but this is an example of maybe a piece of pop culture you're intrigued by, but you're not overly emotionally invested in. I think it is fun to watch something knowing what happens because it changes the way you're examining it differently. You do have to make sure it's something good because there needs to be enough fun drama to keep you engaged, even though you know the end of the mystery. And I've accidentally watched a few things spoiled. Like I was super late to show X, Y, or Z. I couldn't think of one on the spot. So I was like, I kind of knew it happened just because I'm around pop culture all the time.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, that's my recommendation. Try it out. I'm enjoying it so far, and I'm gonna look for other opportunities where I'm not too invested and can give it a shot.
Cool. Anyone else? Recommendations? What have you been watching?
Yeah, we don't all have to do this.
Yeah, just if you have something that you...
I'm gonna do something weird.
Cool.
I'm gonna suggest an anime.
Oh.
Because I am not an anime guy. So here's I've had this conversation with you several times, but it's like I always like see anime and I'm like, that looks visually stunning, and I really want to partake.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, this is not good. Yeah. And like, speaking of which, like, I can understand why the Japanese people like Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of over dramatic stuff like there is in anime. But yeah, I usually start anime thinking I'm gonna like it, and then I end up hating it. That's everything, and I just can't do it. I recently beat Sekiro, the video game, and I just saw a bunch of articles like a couple days later that were like, if you love Sekiro, you'll love this anime. I'm like, I doubt it, assholes. And then I started watching this show called Dororo, and it's on Amazon Prime. At least the first season is. I don't know how many seasons are. I'm not done with it. I'm about 6 episodes in, and it's good. Here's the thing.
That's an anime good.
Here's the thing. I usually have to like muscle through. I'm like, okay, that episode sucked balls, but I'm going to get to the good episodes, and it never happens. This one, I like was up late and I couldn't stop.
Wow, cool.
It's very episodic, but at the same time has an overarching narrative. It's this guy, this like shogun lord who's like it's like feudal Japan, but like fantasy, dark fantasy, and he's like, oh man, my rules falling apart. I'm gonna sell my soul to the devils, I guess is what they're, I don't know, the dark spirits or whatever they believe in. And so he's like makes this deal with them, and they take his firstborn son. But then Buddha steps in.
Oh,
you don't
okay.
see this happen.
I was waiting for Buddha to show up.
You don't like see this happen. You just see like a Buddha statue, and it's almost like these two combative forces like explode, and this child is born without skin or eyes or ears or a nose, but is still alive, and so it's just this monstrous looking thing. And so they full on Moses it and put it in the water and like on a raft and like send it out to the ocean. And then we fast forward a bunch of years, and we see this kid who has grown up, and he has a bunch of prosthetics. And like his face is a prosthetic, he's got fake eyes, fake ears, and he's got like these arms that he pulls off, and they're blades.
Yep.
And,
Okay, I'm into this.
And each episode is like its own episodic thing of like him killing a different demon. Every time he kills a demon, he gets like one of his senses or body parts back.
Interesting.
And that's kind of what keeps you going. And all the little like self-contained stories too are really interesting. It reminded me a lot of the side quests in like The Witcher. Very folklore heavy, very but also have some like deep character moments. It still suffers from a little bit of the things that other anime suffer from, of like the over melodrama and stuff like that. But considering he doesn't talk because he doesn't have the ability to speak, it does a lot of like cool things where it shows more than tells. And really dark, really interesting. I need to finish it because it's been a while since I watched it.
Dororo, Doro.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Asian R's are really, Japanese R's are really hard for me to pronounce. They're kind of like L's mixed with D's, I think. So it's like Dororo.
Okay.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Cool.
Dororo.
Okay, great. Any other recommendations, Marcus?
I have something I'd like to mention.
Let's do it.
So I've been kind of on a Willem Dafoe binge.
Hell yeah.
I recently rewatched The Florida Project, which I love so much. I think every single person should watch that movie. Yeah, it's incredible. Very good. And then I watched this movie called At Eternity's Gate, where he plays Vincent Van Gogh, which I also really enjoyed. If you're like into kind of more art house films, or like you're interested in the life of Vincent Van Gogh, it's a great movie. But anyways, it made me want to rewatch the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Okay. Just sort of like as like a nostalgia trip.
Van Gogh movie.
So that's what I did this weekend.
Cool.
And like I'm really glad I did. I think the whole Twin Peaks thing, this is coming together really nicely, because like I rewatched it and it like rekindled like the love I had for those movies, because like they're just so goofy and fun and like campy, and it's like they were like very unique to their time, like the early 2000s, like that style is just there. I mean, like what Nickelback wrote a song for Spider-Man
Yeah.
1.
I will say every time a Spider-Man movie came out, I was excited to get the soundtrack because the soundtrack was like they had like the score obviously, but there was like the soundtrack that was like songs inspired by Spider-Man. It was like Yellow Card wrote a bespoke song that was inspired by Spider-Man. And I liked it. Like those soundtracks were cool.
They don't do that anymore.
No, it doesn't happen.
Like,
yeah.
and that's what I love. So like kind of like the campiness of those movies, like I'm ready for Twin Peaks now.
Yeah,
like
cool.
I'm like in the mood to like kind of just embrace like the odd like and the theatrical like aspects about it. Like I'm into it.
Cool.
So
okay, great. Yeah, I like those movies. Those are good. Riley, do you have anything you want to recommend?
Shrill on Hulu is super dope.
Shrill is.
I watched it all in like one day, and I'm rewatching it again because I loved it.
Yeah, Shrill is great. A.D. Bryant from Saturday Night Live, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a really great show.
It's really good.
Cool. Well, that's it for us tonight. We do have an email set up as of like 8 days ago. rewatchersonthepod@gmail.com, and also a Twitter account @rewatcherspod.
Send us your fan fiction of us.
Send us your Twin Peaks rewatch podcast fan fiction.
draw a picture of what you think we look like.
All right. Well, we will see you next week, same time, same place, back in the lodge. See you guys later.